they had a chance and then they let it slip. But they're a resilient group. They say they all said that was like the worst fear was to blow out OKC in game one because they know that they're going to come even more aggressive than had it just been like a close type of game one. They had more focus Russell and Kevin that they had to prepare for it, and they kind of anticipated this, and they just didn't match, especially offensively, was where their downfall was.
Now last night, the Spurs, like you said, the Spurs guys weren't really hitting last night. Parker was struggling. You said Patty Mills was struggling. But there's been one guy who's been consistent all playoffs, and we're not talking Kawhi Leonard, who was Kawhi, but LaMarcus Aldridge, 41 points last night, 38 on Sunday in Game 1. What are the Spurs doing to get Aldridge such good looks? Because it's just like with all this talent on the court, Aldridge is like 10 times better than everybody else. What are the Spurs doing differently that Portland could never do to get Aldridge looks like this?
In game one, the Thunder defense helped him out. San Antonio just pick and popped them to death, and he was getting open look after open look for those 48 minutes. So he that 38 came from there, and then his post-up game. Once you're hitting your pick and pop, you're going to be more shooting his post-up game, and then driving to the lane as well, getting to the foul line. So that was in game one. In game two, the Thunder did a better job. Billy Donovan talked about this, about taking away that pick and pop jumper from him. So, it was really just a lot of one-on-one against Serge Ibaka, against Adams, against Cantor. He had all three of them down there. And it was just, he was just comfortable in the post. The Spurs spaced him out well. They gave him time. OKC didn't send a lot of double teams for the second half. And so he was just kind of in his own zone. He's just really comfortable playing against this team, against Ibaka of all people. He's just really comfortable. There are certain defenders this year where he's had really good games. Anthony Davis was a reminder from January where he had I think almost 32 points against him. So there's certain defenders and teams that he's just comfortable against them. And so he definitely looked like that LaMarcus from 2 years ago when he was against the Rockets with the Blazers.
It just seems like Aldridge cannot be stopped anywhere on the court. He was, like you said, he hit the pick and pop. He was hitting the pull-up jumper. He was hitting from the post. You look at the Spurs, and you've watched this organization for a long time. They've always had the ability to reload, with talent from overseas. They bring in LaMarcus Aldridge. Do you think bringing a guy like Aldridge, now you have the guys who are getting older, Parker, Ginobili, Duncan, they're all starting to fade their way out. Do you think the Spurs will still continue to build overseas, or do you think they're going to start acquiring these free agents like Aldridge or David West? Do you think they're going to start going into more of acquiring guys, or still be able to develop talent like they've always had in the past?
I think they're definitely going to keep developing talent. They have some prospects right now who could easily make the jump this coming summer if they strike out in free agency. But I think that them getting Aldridge and making those type of cap moves in the summer with some of those deals that they made puts them in flexible. Right now they're in a position where they have a lot of flexibility coming this summer. So I think they're definitely going to go the free agent route first and see who can they get, what kind of free agents. There's obviously Kevin Durant's the big name out there. He's been rumored with San Antonio and Golden State. And then there's other tier free agents like Pau Gasol, Joakim Noah, Nick Batum, a lot of these kind of guys that they could also try to make some movement to bring in. But yeah, I definitely think the international route's also something they're still working with that. Like I said, they have two prospects, a guy named Davis Bertans and Adam Honga. They both play overseas in Spain. They just had really good EuroLeague seasons, so those guys are almost ready to jump ship. They're very young, but if they need to bring them over, that's definitely a possibility.
Speaking of a young guy on the roster, I actually have a guy. Somebody sent me a text message now. Boban Marjanovic. He's also a free agent this summer. Are the Spurs looking to re-sign him? I know Duncan's getting older, with Thiago now on the roster any longer. Are they going to look at re-signing him, or is one of those things where he can get paid someplace else?
It's very tricky with him. It's more of how patient is he going to be, because you're right. Duncan Manu could retire this summer. David West could opt out of his player option, and then they could chase a guy like Kevin Durant or like a higher free agent. So that's obviously going to take Boban out of the equation. He is a restricted free agent though, so they can give him a qualifying offer of $1.5 million. And I honestly think teams on with all this cap space, there's going to be teams that strike out on the first tier free agents that they're going to give him. I think somebody's going to give him $7 to maybe $10 million. He's shown that he can be an effective player in this league with steady minutes and a good defense behind him. So I think that it's more so on Boban and his agent as far as, are they going to be patient? They're going to basically, San Antonio's going to try to go do that recruiting pitch towards some of these free agents, and if they strike out, then I think definitely Boban, especially if Tim retires, Boban's that guy that they definitely want back, and I could see them giving more than just that $1.5 million to try to offer him to keep him.
Speaking of guys leaving, the Spurs over the last few weeks have lost some key guys as part of their organization as a coaching staff, with Kenny Atkinson and Sean Marks. Now, Kenny is a guy who Mike Budenholzer's lead assistant, but has also coached at San Antonio for a long time. And Sean Marks is now, was an assistant GM. Now he's a full-time GM in Brooklyn. You bear out these guys. What do both those two guys bring to the Nets? And should Nets fans be excited about those two being part of the organization?
Sean Marks for sure. He's been in San Antonio. I see him almost nightly when he was here with the team. He's just a guy that Pop and R.C. Buford have a lot of trust in. He has a lot of experience. There was that one year where they didn't have an assistant coach because another former assistant coach had gotten hired. I think it was Frank Vogel to the Bulls. And so Pop just, Sean Marks was in the front office part, and Pop just put him on the coaching staff, and so he was actually effective. He has both that player personnel where he's actually been an assistant coach for an entire full season, but then he also has the GM part of it, being in the front office working under R.C. Buford. He does a lot of he's good with the scouting, player development. He's always involved in those kind of areas. So he definitely has a lot of experience. And then, playing in the Spurs system as a player when he was coached under Pop, he's been teammates with Tim Duncan, with Parker, with Manu. So he knows, what kind of players he needs to bring in, character guys. And then Atkinson, I didn't have too much familiarity with him, but, just knowing that he was a product of Coach Bud, who was obviously, a former product of Coach Pop. So definitely, it's going to be, Atkinson is going to be. I've read that he's got a lot of player development skills. So they're obviously they have a long road to go because of their draft situation and because of where their organization's at right now. So it's going to be more of hopefully that Mikhail Prokhorov, whatever his name is, he's steady and patient. He's like he's not. Hopefully he's not looking for a championship in 5 years. He's more so looking at what kind of development, what kind of system can these guys build, and that's where he has to be patient with these two guys.
Now, there's another guy on the Spurs coaching staff that I think should be a head coach, and he's probably the best coach in the world that's never coached in the NBA, and that's Ettore Messina. He was a guy that a lot of people thought could be the potential coach in L.A. I thought he'd be one in Brooklyn. Minnesota was a good place. Do you see him taking a head coaching job, maybe like in Sacramento, or do you think he stays around longer, maybe to see how long Pop is going to be around, so he'd be Pop's successor?
I definitely see him leaving. Instead of being Pop's successor. He definitely, he's also he's not that young, so he wants to definitely probably get a head coaching job here and try the NBA out. He's actually known as a legend overseas. He got so many titles in the EuroLeague. But I don't know if Sacramento is a job for him. That's an interesting. That's just how much. Basically, I think it's more so of how much is management going to have his back. Should he take that job? I think he's definitely going to look for other teams to see what else is open. See what else is out there, as the playoffs come to a conclusion, and it wouldn't surprise me if he went to Sacramento. They have a lot of players who he has Omri Caspi there, he has Marco Bellinelli, he has some international type of players which run those EuroLeague type of systems. But obviously, the big question there is what's going to happen with DeMarcus Cousins. Is he going to have backing from ownership if Boogie's not abiding by his type of system and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see. But I definitely think he won't be Pop's successor. I think he'll definitely find an NBA job here in the near future.
Last question, we'll let you out because somebody in the chat room asked this question as well too. Send me a private message about Andre Miller and Kevin Martin. Are we going to see these two guys in the series? They didn't play last night. Are we going to see them play more? Because I was expecting Kevin Martin to be a big part of the series.
That's more so. I don't know if you're going to see Andre Miller, probably not, unless it's another blowout. That's the reason why he played in Game 1. But Kevin is interesting because he's the type of guy where they've only brought him in if they're down by 10, 15 points. They need some sort of a rejuvenation in scoring to try to get somebody out there to hit some threes. But he's almost like this is a series. This is not the series for him because he's a very much a defensive liability. So Russell and Kevin would go to the buffet line against this guy if they saw him out there. So I don't think you're going to see him a lot unless it's more of an adjustment move. A chess match move that Pop's going to have just to get more shooting on the floor. But right now, Danny's actually been hitting pretty well, Danny Green. So right now, I don't anticipate you're going to see any Kevin Martin here in the next 2 games.
Which is surprising because Kevin Martin is one of the best scorers in the NBA. Can also gets the free throw line, is very accurate as well too. So Paul, once again, you always do what you do best. You kill it about the Spurs. And while you're on your way out, tell everybody how to get in contact with you. Tell them about the site and what you got coming up.
Okay. Yes. You can visit the site at projectspurs.com. We're also heavily on Twitter at Project Spurs. We're just obviously we're recapping the series right now. Do a lot of play analysis, pieces after every Spurs game, as long as as far as they go into the playoffs. And then my personal Twitter account is at Paul Garcia PS.
Paul Garcia, Project Spurs, once again. He's anything about the San Antonio Spurs. He's the best piece from the organization other than Greg Popovich. And I'm pretty sure Paul will give you a lot more to talk about than Greg ever will on a good day. Paul, once again, thanks for coming on the show, man. We got to do this again soon.
Thank you, definitely.
Paul Garcia, Project Spurs, and we're going to go to break. But before we go to break here on NBA Full Court Press Radio here on the Happy Hour Network and the NBA Full Court Press Radio app, we're going to go into our Yippee-Ki-Yay Blues Song of the Week. And you know what? Tonight, guys, we have a special song for you guys tonight. It's from our good friend Eli Cook, and the song is called Tall and Twisted on the album Primitive Son. For those who don't know Eli Cook, he's probably one of the biggest blues artists there is in the country right now. A lot of people compare him to Eric Clapton, and he'll actually be on the show talking about Tall and Twisted and Primitive Son on Thursday night's show at about 8:25 Eastern time. So he'll be on the show live with us talking about the album. So but as we go to break and we do our top of the hour thing, we're going to go into Tall and Twisted by Eli Cook off the album Primitive Son. So as we go to break, this is Eli Cook. We're right back at the top of the hour with Full Court Press Radio here on the Happy Hour Network. We'll see you in about 2 minutes.
All and twisted, all black, lifted child. Yeah. I watched you crawl through the twisted with your tall and twisted smile.
Born with the blues, whether we want to admit it or not. Though you'll truly experience the blues from a different yet very unique perspective when you visit Yippee-Ki-Yay Blues. At Yippee-Ki-Yay Blues, you'll experience some amazing sounds from aspiring talented musicians in the blues genre. Be sure to download Yippee-Ki-Yay Blues Android app from Google Play Store and get wired to the Rattled Beach Show on Friday nights. Blues on YippieKiYayBlues.com.
Are you looking for some sick sports apparel? DHTK designed some of the newest and coolest brands such as Represent, Game Over, and Don't Hate the King. DHTK's vision is to integrate culture, fashion, and attitude that best represents the players and caters to us, the fans. Click on DHTK.com and subscribe to their mailing list for an automatic 10% off your order. If you are a basketball fan, follow DHTK on social media. Visit DHTK.com for more details. DHTK.com. You don't have to be a king to dress like one.
Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Late Night Parents is live and exclusively on the Happy Hour Network. So why don't you join me, Ted Hicks? I'm a dad, husband, and son as I moderate a weekly discussion and engage an extraordinary range of interviewees for Late Night Parents. Whether it's from the world of politics, literature, visual and performing arts, science, business, technology, education, and even sports. They're all game changers. Why? Simply because we're all parents. Be prepared for an open and honest conversation because that's what you're going to receive. So why don't you break free and listen to Late Night Parents Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, live and exclusively on the Happy Hour Network.
Baseball, beer, and barbecue.
Strikeouts are boring. Besides that, they're fashion.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food with Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell.
This game is a part of our past.
Every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike three, blew it past him, some high heat once again.
blogtalkradio.com/Happy Hour Network.
Are you still trying to talk to me?
Are you looking for some sick sports apparel? DHTK designed some of the newest and coolest brands such as Represent, Game Over, and Don't Hate the King. DHTK's vision is to integrate culture, fashion, and attitude that best represents the players and caters to us, the fans. Click on DHTK.com and subscribe to their mailing list for an automatic 10% off your order. If you are a basketball fan, follow DHTK on social media. Visit DHTK.com for more details. DHTK.com. You don't have to be a king to dress like one.